Hello, I'm Mike from GroveStreams. In this video, I discuss our support for MQTT. I will briefly discuss what MQTT is, our MQTT conventions, security and X509 certificates, monitoring and testing in Observation Studio, and introduce our Raspberry Pi MQTT tutorial. MQTT stands for Message Queuing Telemetry Transport. It is a lightweight, open-source messaging protocol that enables secure communications between devices and applications over the internet. It's commonly used in data streaming systems, including IoT applications and smart grids. GroveStreams has its own MQTT servers and can publish and subscribe MQTT topics. Our MQTT conventions can be found on our support pages. The important ones are: we support most of the MQTT version 5 specification. All connections require X509 certificates. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. All topics must start with your GroveStreams organization UID. We have a few reserved MQTT published topics that allows feed data to be published into GroveStreams, manages certificates, and makes calls to almost all of our existing HTTP APIs. Let's look at MQTT in Observation Studio. Click on Admin, Security, and MQTT Certificates. This brings up the certificate management window. Certificates are very important to making MQTT secure. Managing thousands or hundreds of thousands of certificates can become very difficult. GroveStreams simplifies the management of certificates. To get started with MQTT, you first have to come up with an X509 certificate plan. I'll go over some of the items that will help you with your planning. Certificates can sign other certificates, and when they do, they create a trust path, otherwise known as a certificate chain. The entire chain is needed for authentication. The chain can be hierarchical like a tree. The entire public certificate chain needs to be registered inside your GroveStreams organization. When you purchase a certificate, it usually comes with a file called a bundle. That bundle file usually contains the entire chain. Certificate providers' websites almost always have a page where their public certificates can be downloaded. We refer to the certificate chain leafs as the device certificates. The leaf, or device certificate, can only be registered inside of one GroveStreams organization. We call non-leafs certificate authorities, or CA certificates. CA certificates can be registered in more than one GroveStreams organization. Let's go over some certificate best practices. Each device should have its own certificate, the leaf in the chain. That's not a GS requirement, but it's highly recommended. The certificate folder inside GroveStreams should mimic the certificate hierarchy chain. This makes managing large clusters of devices easier, allows for disabling any part of a chain, and lets policies aggregate as they move up the chain. Certificates need to be renewed from a certificate authority, reinstalled on the device, and re-registered in your GroveStreams organization. This process is known as rolling certificates. Rolling typically happens once a year, as almost all purchase certificates expire after 1 year and need to be renewed. Sometimes rolling is done daily for high security situations. GroveStreams has a rolling framework in place to assist with this. Self-signed certificates are free, and anybody can run script to create them. They are great for prototyping, but they are not encouraged. They are not as secure as certificates issued by a certificate authority, which unfortunately cost money. Our Raspberry Pi tutorial source code contains several script files that generate self-signed certificates. So where should you get your certificates? That's a great question, because I searched hard on the web for affordable certificates that could be purchased in bulk and couldn't really find a source. I suspect small companies have the same problem, as a lot of solutions are going with self-signed certificates or just using one certificate for all devices. I expect the price will start coming down as device usage goes up. Let us know if you are aware of a certificate vendor that issues affordable certificates in large quantities or allow for the purchase of an affordable signing certificate. Let's register a certificate in the organization. Expand Client Certificates. Right-click on a folder and select New Client Certificate. Select a certificate policy. Policies are mandatory for every certificate. I'll go over policies shortly. Open File Explorer outside of the browser. Find your public certificate files. Drag the entire chain of files onto the import grid. You can also drop a certificate bundle file onto the grid. GroveStreams will register each certificate in the bundle. A certificate's settings can be edited after the import. Just double-click it. A certificate name can be anything. The import uses the common name from inside the certificate. Remember, We only allow devices to be associated with non-CA certificates. It's sometimes difficult for our certificate import logic to determine if a certificate is a CA certificate or not. Uncheck the CA indicator box if you know it's not a CA certificate. Single self-signed certificates almost always have this checked after an import. Just edit the certificate and uncheck it after the import. The Run as User field must be set if your device will make GroveStreams HTTP API calls via MQTT. The HTTP calls will be processed using this user's GS credentials. This avoids having to use an HTTP secret key. A component template can be associated with device certificates. The template will be used when a device makes its first call using the certificate. Enter the folder path for newly created components. Optionally configure pinning. The first component using the certificate will get pinned to it. Pinning is also important if the GS certificate operations feature is going to be used, which I'll go over shortly. A certificate can be deactivated. All calls will fail if any certificate in the chain is not active. The certificate details can be viewed on the last tab, including the issuer's name and when the certificate expires. I created this self-signed certificate to expire in 35,000 days. All devices need the GroveStreams public certificate on them in order to communicate with our MQTT servers. It is usually stored in the device's trust store. Our public certificates can be downloaded by right-clicking anywhere in the window and choosing Download GroveStreams Public Certificate. Like all certificates, this certificate will eventually expire, and you'll need a plan to update it on all of your devices. Every certificate is required to have a policy, including CA certificates. A policy determines which topic actions are allowed for a certificate. A single policy can be used by many certificates. Each certificate's policy in the certificate chain are reinforced for every MQTT call. To create a policy, just right-click and choose New Certificate Policy. Add a permission set. Type or paste the topic and set the actions allowed or denied for each set. Topics need to start with the organization UID with the exception of Manage My Org topic, which a device can use to avoid hard-coding UIDs. An organization UID can be found in the browser URL of Observation Studio or by clicking Admin Other View Organization UID. A new set will default with a topic including the org UID. Click the Save button to save the new policy. The policy can now be referred to by many certificates. A certificate operation allows for batch processing of certificates under a selected folder. To create a new operation, right-click and select New Certificate Operation. Give it a name. Specify which certificate folder the operation will apply to. When the operation runs, it will process every device certificate's pinned component under that folder and all child folders. This is why every device should have its own certificate and be pinned to it. It allows certificate operations to be used across all components. Operations can be run manually anytime, or they can be scheduled and have the results emailed. Select the type of operation. Let's go over them. Report expiring will email a list of all expiring certificates. Roll expiring will publish an MQTT topic to each device pinned to the certificate if the certificate is expiring. It is the responsibility of the device to do the actual rolling. Roll all certificates will publish an MQTT topic to each component pinned to the certificate. It is the responsibility of the device to do the actual rolling. Update Trust Store will notify each device to update its Trust Store. Take Action will execute an action defined under Tools, Event Packages. I'll demonstrate that. Add an MQTT publish action or any other action to the action package. The action package's action client certificate will be substituted with the current certificate being processed during the operation. Action message variables such as component ID are supported and will be substituted with the ID of the current certificate's pinned component's ID. A certificate process can be manually started by right-clicking an operation and selecting Execute Certificate Operation Now. Right-click on a folder or an object and select Properties. Select the Security tab to configure access security to all MQTT artifacts in this window. Access security is only available for certain pricing plans. GroveStreams provides monitoring and testing of MQTT calls. Choose Toolbar, Admin, MQTT Monitoring and Testing. Select a client device certificate, then click the Connect button. A shortcut to open the tester is to open it by right-clicking on a certificate. It will automatically have the certificate selected and auto-connect. Add subscriptions and publish topics to monitor them. This tester is using WebSockets to communicate with our web servers. The web server will use a GS certificate to connect with our MQTT server while using the policies associated with the certificate chosen in the monitoring window. Our support pages include a Raspberry Pi tutorial. The tutorial demonstrates everything we covered in this video and a lot more, including everything that is needed to quickly get a device prototyped and into production. In this video, we discussed what MQTT is and our conventions, security, X509 certificates, policies and operations, monitoring and testing, and I showed you where to find our Raspberry Pi MQTT tutorial. Good luck with your MQTT integration. Thanks for watching.